This class is concerned with human resource development. Now, human resource development helps employees reach their full potential by developing their personal and organizational skills, developing their knowledge and their capabilities. So, human resource development is an ongoing process within the workplace. It tries to develop the human resource. It tries to develop labor so that workers become more efficient, and also they become more motivated. They become more integrated into the culture of the business. They see their future with the business because they believe the business is encouraging them, it's developing them. They have security of employment because the company is investing in them, so they feel more comfortable in work. So human resource development is an important function within businesses. It gives the employee a sense of belonging. It develops their skills and their competencies, and it makes the business more efficient. The HRD department, the Human Resource Development Department or section, normally it's within the Human Resource Management Department. This section is responsible for providing training and education to help further develop employee career prospects, and also develop efficiency, develop better working practices, develop a greater understanding between employee and management, a greater feeling that everyone's on the same side and everyone's working towards the same objectives. The main focus of HRD is to develop a suitably skilled workforce. By working together, organizations and employees can achieve the company goals. So the HRD section tries to match the skills of the employees, the current skills of the employees, let's say, to the requirements of the business. And where there is a mismatch, where there is a shortfall in skills, or a mismatch in skills between what the workers have got and what the company require, the HRD department comes into play. It organizes perhaps short courses or training sessions, or it organizes some mechanism, some way of further improving the employee's set of skills so that they match the requirements of the business. HRD refers to discussion and analysis of workplace learning. So when we discuss HRD, we're really discussing the implementation of learning programs, of training programs, and the analysis of the effectiveness of those training programs. The main elements of HRD are learning, where the workforce are learning new skills, they're updating their skills, they're learning new methods. So the workforce are being improved. There's training which provides the learning, the types of training, the way the training is developed and implemented, and the general development of the workforce in total. The development in the sense of trying to, as I said earlier, match the current skills with the required skills of the business. Now let's look at these three in some more detail. And let's start with learning. Learning can be referred to as an increase in an individual's level of knowledge, skills and attitudes. Learning is what improves the individual, and generally speaking, as individuals we like to learn new things. We like to learn about new processes, and we also want to feel that we're working as part of a team and that our employers are interested in us and trying to develop us. We feel more secure in our jobs because of that as well. So learning is trying to increase our level of knowledge. It may be regarding a particular machine and how to use the machine, or it might be regarding a certain process in the office, a new piece of software, or something new that we need training in order to develop the skills. It's not intuitive. It's not something we can use straight out of the box. This is something that has to be learnt. HRD looks at what learning entails and how learning can be effectively delivered to employees. Depending on what's going to be taught, there may be different approaches, different ways of learning that are suitable in different situations, and it's the obligation of the HRD department to determine what is the best method of learning. The HRD function aims to make learning more effective and efficient. The types of learning methods to be used must be well thought out. The precise skills that the workers require must constitute the focus of the learning. But generally speaking, there are wider issues in play as well. The workers, as I said earlier, feel more loyalty to the business because they feel more involved, and the training programs can include wider the social aspects of working. It's an opportunity for management to put across their policies regarding HR, regarding workplace rules and the logic for the rules, and get feedback from the employees. So a typical session talking about the development of some skill could be somewhat wider. But it should be put across efficiently, perhaps in a training centre or in a specialist room with proper equipment, and make it a one-day event or a half-a-day event where the workers feel comfortable, and supply them with drinks, tea, coffee or whatever, and as a more relaxed environment so that they feel that they are a part of a special process. In terms of training, training is a process of learning and development. So training is about learning and development. It's the actual process. Training is when someone has been shown how to do something and been mentored and helped in developing the skills to perform that task. It's undertaken to support development and maintain high standards of capability in employment. So training is not really a one-off situation. Training is an everyday situation. Training happens continuously. The worker in performing tasks is building up an expertise in the performance of that task. But the worker is also developing an expertise in the maintenance of the task. If the task goes wrong, they're able to self-manage it and able to look after it because they have this expertise. And if an issue arises, they are taught how to fix it. So that's a part of the training. The training is ensuring that the worker is competent and capable and feels at ease about the technicalities of doing the particular task. Training is perceived as formal learning which takes place in the workplace. So it is learning, it's a part of the workers' learning. They have a task to complete. They learn the processes. They become familiar with the processes, and it's learning by doing. They are doing the task and they are learning every day from the task until they have complete mastery of it. So they become extremely efficient in the performance of the task. So it is learning. It's learning that particular task or that set of tasks and applying the skills that have been acquired to the performance of the task. It's really a process of embedding theory into practice. In the training programs that the companies offer, they may explain why certain processes must come before the others, or why certain processes are performed in the way that they're recommended. There must be a logic. Why does something happen before something else? Why is it done this way and not that way? There must be a logic in the situation, and that's explained so that the worker does not have to experiment. They know that if something happens out of sequence, there will be a problem, and they know why there will be a problem. So they understand the theory of why the job is set the way it is, why the task is set the way it is, and they're able to deal with that. Now, development. Well, development is the process in which learning changes the individual and enables them to grow. Development is like growth. It's the growth of the individual. The employee starts with perhaps no particular company skills. They start with a set of generic skills, skills from school, from college, or from university, or from previous employment. They start with a set of skills which are not focused on the skills that the organization requires, that the business requires. So the company must put in place the skills that they require. And this is a development process. This is adding to the previous set of skills. The individual is growing in terms of their capabilities and what they can do. And the more that the company guides them and directs them and teaches them and supplies training events, the more the individual will develop. So it's the growth of the individual. It's a process. The workers try to develop themselves, they try to acquire the skills required, they try to improve themselves. It's a process. They start with very few skills when they enter the business, and as time goes by they become more and more confident in the performance of certain skills, and eventually they become expert in particular skills. It's a developmental process. Now, training and development have two distinct meanings. Development has a status attachment. For example, managers and professionals have undertaken a period of development for them to achieve their status. So development occurs over time. The individuals develop over time. So development it can be quite long. It can be a lifetime, or it can be quite a considerable period of time. So development within a particular role can take a long time to master and to show expertise. So development is an ongoing process over a long period of time. And training is referred to in the context of employees. They are trained to perform specific tasks. So there is a difference between training and development. Development is a long-term commitment, a long-term development plan for the individual. An accountant will want to become a professional accountant, perhaps, and take professional examinations. A marketing person may want to get entry into the Chartered Institute of Marketing, or may wish to pad out his or her curriculum vitae with achievements which shows their development within that sector, within that type of work. So development is long-term. Training can be quite focused. Training is, there's a new piece of software in the office, the staff need to be trained how to use it. Now I said earlier in the session that the training sessions themselves can be used to widen, not just focus in on specific skills, but they can be used also as an opportunity to explain why the task is important and the objectives of the business and why people should be committed to learning this particular skill and so on. So it can be slightly wider, but essentially training is to get across the core skills necessary to perform that particular task. So training and development, training focused in on a particular set of skills, training long-term development, much wider in terms of its approach, and may include professional qualifications and outside qualifications. Now the human resource development process, well, it's a sequential process which involves observation, planning, action and review. There are essentially 4 components here to the HRD process. The HRD process looks to see what needs to be done, what skills need to be developed, what issues need to be addressed in terms of the human resource, and then it plans to address any shortfall. It plans to, if you like, fix the problem. If the workforce don't have particular skills that are essential or highly desirable, then the HRD department will set about planning to fulfill these shortfalls. And then it takes action. It supplies a training program. It could be a number of one-day training sessions or half-day training sessions in which the workers are taken through various activities and shown how to use the equipment or to perform the tasks that are required. And having done that, it goes back to review. It's a bit like reflection. They go back and review to see how well the training programs addressed the situation, and if there's still a shortfall, what can be done about it, and so it reviews the situation. The process enables individuals to manage and develop their cognitive expertise and behaviours. It improves team and organisational performance within the workplace. Now, developing cognitive expertise and behaviours means that the process of training enables the workers to think about the particular tasks, to focus in, to think about the specific tasks that are required, focus in on those and try to achieve them. It may be in using a particular type of machinery, or as I said earlier, using a particular piece of software, or whatever. It could be whatever function, but the workers are able to focus in. They're using their cognitive expertise. They're able to concentrate and are able to adjust their behavior in the sense of focusing on the task, not being distracted. And they understand why it's important. They feel as a part of a team because now they are performing a task that had to be resourced. The learning the task had to be resourced. So management take it very seriously. This task is important, and the workers who are performing the task now feel that they are much closer to the organization. They're working as a part of the team. So it fosters teamwork and hence better organizational performance. The four elements are something like that. We start with the observation. We observe that there is an issue. There is a shortfall in skills. The workers simply can't perform particular tasks. So appropriate workers are identified as suitable for training. And the HR section will perhaps interview the workers, find out if they are committed, if they want to have the training, if they're enthusiastic. It'll look to the workers to see who wants to be trained. And it'll look at the tasks that need to be completed. Then it will plan some training programs. It may take in outside speakers or experts in certain areas. It'll plan to deliver the programs of training. And then it'll actually do it. The act. It'll actually deliver it. There will be one-day training programs or half-day training programs or on-the-job training or mentoring or whatever is felt to be suitable. There will be action trying to get the workers, get the employees skilled in the required areas. And at the end of the action, the HR department the HRD department should review what happened to see how effective it was. Now the role of the HRD in organizations involves practice and perspective. And I'll explain what's meant by these by going through each of them. So the role of the HRD department in organizations involve practice and perspective. We start with practice. So first of all, it involves different kinds of practice. What is undergone for facilitating and guiding HRD? So the first practice that the HRD section must look towards is what is good HRD within the context of the organization? How is HRD, how is human resource development facilitated and guided within the organization? What's the structure of the department? And how is the department equipped to, first of all, identify training needs and then implement programs to deliver the training needs? So what's undergone for facilitating and guiding HRD? How does it go about doing it? And management of practice, essential for developing effective performance in work and organization settings. The management of practice in this context simply means identifying what skills are required and then identifying what training programs are required and then, and then implementing it and reviewing it. Now the management of practice is ensuring that this is done accurately, it's done efficiently, and ensuring that feedback is acted upon. So management of practice is the practice of delivering the training programs. On-the-job learning experiences at the workplace. The management of practice may be that the workers are not required to attend a training centre. They may learn on the job. They may learn whilst performing the task. Perhaps instruction can be given to them as they perform the task. It depends critically on the nature of the task. If the task is relatively straightforward, that's possible. On the job experience is sufficient. But if it's somewhat more complex, involving many different procedures, perhaps the theory needs to be explained as well. Why is the sequence the way it is, and why is the job organized the way it is? So the worker does not have lingering questions or doubts about the whole process. They don't feel that they're just part of the machine. They understand what's happening. They have a consciousness, and they are able to appreciate the complexity of what they're doing. It could be organizational based. So the management of practice, the practice of HRD, could be to have a training center, or perhaps have a room set aside with training aids, teaching aids, overhead projector and computers and so on. What is required for effective training in a modern context? So it may be organizational based. They may have their facility to enable training to occur. They may also have resources other than the classroom or the training center resources. They may have resources in terms of library, a small library of techniques. They may have networks within colleges, or they may have networks of people who are expert in delivering particular sessions, and they can call on these. The organization can call on them to become involved. They may use, in terms of the management of practice, mentoring programs and coaching programs. Mentoring is normally a situation where an employee is assigned an expert, someone who has done the task before them, someone who perhaps was previously doing this particular role and was promoted or moved laterally to do some other task. Well, they have an expertise in performing the function, so they can pass on that expertise. They can mentor the new person in the processes that are required, and the sequences, and what to watch out for, what's dangerous, what is acceptable, what's not acceptable. So mentoring is passing on knowledge from one person to the next and guiding the person as they develop. Of course, nowadays there's always the opportunity for online learning, computer-based or located in a learning center. The modern world, which has been around now for probably 20 years or even longer, modern world really started with the advent of computer networks, and with computer networks it was felt that there was an opportunity to provide material centrally so that students could access the material as and when they wanted, and they could learn as and when they want. Not dissimilar to the process that we're engaged in right here and now. Now, the second part I said to you earlier was perspective. The perception of HRD through different people. Because when we think of human resource development, we tend to have different views as individuals about what HRD does. To some people, they organize training events, and that's it. Others, they spend a lot of time trying to ascertain skill levels, or they're trying to get a fix on how adept or how skilled the workforce are in the performance of certain tasks. So they're maybe into testing, for example, and having testing programs, psychological testing, and that sort of thing. Now, what this really comes down to is that the different people have different views of what HRD does. Now, the different perceptions do impact on the development of HRD at work. If the head of the human resource management section, who perhaps may be also responsible for the human resource development section, if that person has got strong views about the role of HRD, then they will presumably apply, and that person may be more interested in developing short, quick programs with quite a lot of small reinforcement programs, so that the person's taught an individual skill, a basic skill or some particular skill, and in a couple of weeks later it'll be reinforced. There'll be another session which will look at that and develop it slightly more. Perhaps that's the program that that individual would want to see. Another person within the department may have a different view, may think that one concentrated exercise over a couple of days would be far better, because it would communicate all aspects of the work, about the company, about the culture of the business, as well as the specific, perhaps technical tasks that need to be taught. So people differ in their perspectives. In HRD, perception is the viewpoint of employees, employers, the organization, and individuals. In other words, everyone has got a different opinion about HRD. Everyone's got a different opinion just about how the human resource development section should train individuals, and how it should be involved in the workforce, and the programs and the quality of the programs it develops, and how effective it is. There are different perceptions from the employees, the employers, the general organizational view. Perhaps people looking in from the outside will have a different view. So there's not a lot of consistency about what the HRD department does precisely. Perspectives help HRD develop organizational standards. The aim is to deliver desirable outcomes for the organization. Well, one outcome of the various perspectives that people have, the employers, the employees, the organizations, the general public, given they've all got different perspectives, the HRD department may try to determine which perspective is best, which one predominates, which one is the front runner, which one is the one that people most widely hold, and try to exploit that perspective to develop quality programs for individual workers which will improve the organization and improve the efficiency of the organization. It'll improve the spirit within the organization. It'll improve the atmosphere, the way people work and deal with each other, and the way they see each other. So looking at all the various perspectives may give the HRD department some ideas about how to develop. Now, the conclusion. Well, HRD has been acknowledged as important over recent years. It's becoming increasingly important. Employers need to have specific skills, and they need the employees to have those skills. So having the generic skills, the ability to read, write and do arithmetic, and perhaps have wider interests and wider education, is good. But they also need to have the particular skills required within the business. And HRD is valued as a system, or as a way of developing those skills and keeping them up to date, because the world is evolving, the technology is evolving, the processes are evolving, and the business itself has to innovate and change and develop as time goes by, and it has to ensure that the workers are developed in line with that development. There's a need to invest in people, and in the UK there is something called Investors in People, where companies who spend a lot of resource on developing their employees can be awarded the title of Investors in People. But there is a change here. In the past, employees were seen as a resource. They were seen as a resource that produced the products that the companies produced. So the workers were seen as not dissimilar in many respects to the machinery. The machinery produced the things, and the workers and the machinery collaborated in a sense to produce the things that come out of the company. Now the mismatch between these perceptions is starting to be addressed. In the past, employers would invest in machines and the workers were taken as given. Now it's seen to be important to train the workers, invest in the workers, invest in the employees, and also widen the perception, humanize it. The workers are not part of the machines. They're not servicing the machines. They are cognitive individuals. They need to be trained, they need to be motivated, they need to understand what they're doing and be respected for what they're doing. So now there is a different view perhaps than in the past. The view is that workers have a dignity that needs to be respected. They have intellectual requirements that need to be developed. They need to know how to perform the tasks and to have pride in what they do. They need to be praised when they do a good job. They need to be motivated. And they need to understand their place in the organization and that they are important to the organization. The government encourages new schemes and initiatives to improve and develop the workforce and encourage all members of staff to take part in some sort of lifelong training scheme. There's another term that we really need to just think about right at the end of this session, and that's this idea of lifelong learning. Lifelong learning is the idea that we don't stop learning when we leave school or college or university, or we don't stop learning. We continue to learn right throughout our lives, and every day we acquire some new insight or we acquire some new skill. It may be small, but we develop. And if the workforce are developing in a natural sense, just by doing their task and talking to their colleagues and observing what's happening around them, they are developing. Then they are ready to perhaps make even greater development if they were helped. So if the HRD department or section was to supply them with an extra course or give them some guidance or help them to develop, then we're talking here about lifelong learning and increasing skills over the lifetime, increasing efficiency, increasing productivity, more involvement with the work, more motivation within the workplace. Nearly all of what I've said depends on the motivation of the individual. The employees should want what's been offered. It should meet their personal agendas. If the employee does not see themselves as working for the company for a long period, they will not be motivated by training programs which develop specific skills. If the employees are not interested in development, they just want to perform some basic function and get paid at the end of the week or at the end of the month, they're not going to develop it. So a lot of what we've said in this session depends on the attitude of the employees as well. So these are some of the issues that we need to be aware of when we talk about human resource development. It's an important aspect of modern life and modern work, and training in-house or in a training center is becoming more and more the norm, and skill updating is seen as important by employers, and employees are increasingly required to participate in skill development programs. But that's all I'm going to deal with in this session. I'm going to leave it at that and say thank you for watching.